listening to Stirring It Up with Anita Mitchell.
Sunshine and warm breeze are taking me to that state.
On the True Oldies channel.
I feel like Florida. I feel like Florida today.
Now, here's Anita Mitchell.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Stirring It Up. I'm Anita Mitchell, and it's nice to spend a little time with you today on this happy Friday at 6:30. For those that you are driving, don't move the dial, but be safe. And for those of you that are just leaving work and you might miss us, a couple things. One is you can go to our Facebook and get us live if you don't have the radio on by tuning in to the 95.9 Facebook, or the True Oldies Facebook, actually. Or if you miss us there, then you can go to YouTube, and all the shows are recorded and libraried there. And you go to YouTube and write in Stirring It Up with Anita, and so I don't have to lose you. There's lots of places you can find us. Thanks for tuning in to 95.9, and aren't we glad we live in Florida? I say that every week, and every week I'm grateful. Today we've got a fun guest. He's an author, he's a TV host, he's done all kinds of fun things. His name is Bill Boggs, and I want to welcome to Stirring It Up. Thank you for joining us and taking the time today, Bill.
No, it's a pleasure to give you my. Otherwise, what am I doing? I'm opening my mail on a Friday evening. I'm fine. It's great to be with you, Anita.
Listen.
I look forward to this, and as you probably know, my beloved Lady Jane, my girlfriend, and I have a place down there in Palm Beach. So we're broadcasting to our friends. Like you, I love Florida. I love where we live. I can't speak for the whole state. I love our area of Florida.
Well, I can speak for the whole state because I travel a lot, and I lived in Cocoa Beach for a long time up at the Kennedy Space Center. Florida is 5 states in one. We have so many varieties. South Florida is like a different country compared to North Florida, which is where our capital is, Tallahassee, which I happen to love. And before I start with you, I want to make sure that I tell our listening audience, guess what? Bahama Paradise Cruise Line and the Grand Classica is back, and we'll be back in the water July the 2nd. And boy, am I happy to hear that. And it's been 15 months. And that pier out there, that where we dock, looked pretty lonely as she sat in dry dock over in Freeport. So go on our website, Bahama Paradise Cruise Line, and check us out. And if you want, the next time I'm on the air, I'll give you the Friends of Anita's phone number. And I don't know what happens to you when you call that, but you get a nice welcome for sure, and maybe a couple surprises. So back to Bill. You'll have to cruise with us, Bill, next time you're down here.
Where does that cruise line cruise? I love cruises. I've been on 22 cruises as a speaker. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're a well-kept secret. We have a luxury liner. It's a Costa ship called the Grand Classica. She's out of the port of Palm Beach, so you don't have all that traffic. We have valet parking. It's a 5-star ship, and it's one night over to Freeport in the Grand Bahamas and one night back. We have a small casino, an 800-person theater, 4 nightclubs, 5-star food, and it's just a joy. And you can stay over in the islands if you want to. We have some nice packages. And I happen to have been working with the cruise line for the last 4 years, and it's been a treat. As my listening audience knows, I lobbied in my last life, so I went from lobbying to Love Boat, and boy, what a fun trip this has been. So come see us.
A lot of people will say, "Oh, how can you stand cruising?" Let's say all cruise lines and all cruise trips are not created equal. And one of the main things that makes any ocean voyage, whether it's a 27-day voyage like I've been on or an overnight voyage, is the people on the ship.
You bet.
That is really a crucial element.
You bet. And we pay a lot of attention to Palm Beach County and the 4 counties north. I say we're like Cheers. If you're on our ship 3 times, we know you by name. Our staff is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's good. This sounds like something I would like. So good for you, Anita. What do you do on the ship?
I'm Vice President of External Affairs and Business Development, and so I get to do all kinds of stuff.
That's a good job.
including government. You can take the girl out of lobbying, but I guess you can't take lobbying out of the girl. So it's fun. It's a relationship job.
I've often said that in another life, I would have been a cruise director for 10 years.
It's a cool job, and our cruise director is fun.
In another life.
Yeah, Love Boat. But the Grand Classica is a beautiful, beautiful ship, and I'm so proud of the cruise line. It's privately owned by two families, and they hung in there, which wasn't easy. And we had two ships. We sold Celebration and kept Grand Classica, and we're going to make it. And we have a big impact into the county. We direct spend about $100 million a year per ship. So that's my I always like to give a shout out. This is my fun thing to do, but the cruise line has been a joy, and it's a joy to have you. So talk to me about, give our audience a little bit about your background, because it's fascinating.
Well, a little bit about my background. Since I grew up in Philadelphia, PA, where I had wonderful parents who stood behind me, encouraged me, and enabled me to have, I think, intrinsic confidence that has helped me to the extent that you could say I've succeeded. Succeeded largely because of the education I got there. Went to University of Pennsylvania, got a master's degree. Really started my career in comedy and managing a comedy team. The guys I was working with, we hated our jobs, and so I collaborated with them on material and launched their careers. And then
anybody we know?
Well, they stopped. Yeah, but they were on all the major shows. 6 months after we decided, 6 months after we ran into each other in the hallway, and they showed me a comedy routine they did. They were on the Merv Griffin show, which would be
wow, out of Philadelphia, right?
So it was Tom Patchett. No, that was Mike Douglas. Tom Patchett, Jay Tarsis. They ended up stopping performing, even though they'd been quite successful as performers, and focused just on writing. And they ended up writing as the head writers for Newhart. And they wrote for Mary Tyler Moore. They wrote Muppet movies. They wrote Alf, Days and Nights of Molly Dodd, made millions of dollars.
Wow.
They were very successful. And then I got myself on television in Philadelphia. My goal was to be a TV host. I've had around 15 different shows as a host, ranging from the syndicated show I had in North Carolina, Southern Exposure, up to Midday Live with Bill Boggs in New York on the East Coast for 12 years. I was on the Food Network 10 years. I worked for Showtime, Travel Channel, did a couple specials for NBC, the anchor for NBC, WNBC in New York. So a lot of a game show for CBS TV. As a result of being on the cruise line, which was essentially Crystal Cruises,
sure,
I developed 5 talks that I now give to the communities down there in Florida. I love stage work. I love performing. Had an off-Broadway show for 6 months, a triad about my career called Confessions of a Talk Show Host. And I've written 3 books. And the most recent book we sent you, there it is, The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog.
Right.
Takes me back. We can talk about that in a while. So I've had a career where you said fun. I made a deal with myself when I was 4 years old and used to see the men coming home from work tired, knowing someday I was going to be a man, someday I was going to go to work. And I made a promise to myself, whatever I do, I want it to be as most fun as possible. So I have been really blessed and lucky that I've been able to accomplish that in my life.
Well, let's go. I was curious when you said you got a master's degree. You got your master's degree in what?
A master's degree in communication from the Annenberg School of Communication at the University of Pennsylvania. I also was an undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania. And believe it or not, I worked as an assistant dean at Penn while I was managing the comedy team to moonlight in the side and make some extra money.
I don't know how I get so lucky to have all these underachievers on the show, but wow, what a career, Bill. If you could say, I know there's not one thing. That's like asking Tony Bennett what's his favorite song, but I'm going to try it. What's the thing that really makes you smile a lot? I mean, I would, if I could do nothing else, I would stick with this. What's the this?
No, that I've done. Really, I have no immediate answer to that. I've done performing on television, so I would say sitting down with somebody with a couple million people watching and talking to them about something meaningful. Um, Probably on live. I love live television because it's like work.
It's a lost art.
So I would say of all the things, writing, stage performing, which is live. Why do I have a pencil in my hand? I don't know. I'm at my desk. Live interviewing of notable people, and I have a YouTube channel, Anita, that I've been working on and curating. That's a very popular word these days, curating, for 15 years, and has about 475 clips from various shows I've done, all manner of examples of talk essentially on daytime television really could be real long conversations to many, many celebrities. I mean, some of the top names, Yul Brynner, Natalie Wood, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis, Jerry Lewis, all
That
manner.
must have been fun with you as a comedian with Jerry Lewis.
You can see those interviews on BillBoggsTV on YouTube. And I'm always gratified when people tune in and then they write some comments. Although, you know what's so interesting? Because of social media, I about every 2 weeks I go through the comments. There can be such meanness. Bill Boggs said, blankly blank. What a dumb son of a bitch. Where does that anger come from? Like, I might ask a question they didn't like. I never respond. But we live at a time when people, like in the privacy of their own homes, typing their computer, can be quite mean. I mean, that's where I see it a lot.
Well,
I get a lot of nice things, but a lot of mean things.
there's an intrinsic anger that I've never seen before, and
Yes,
it's not
true.
healthy. And you see it on television. You also see it on kids' games, which concern me. There's just violence seems to be okay.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting that we live in a culture where so many things are being objected to, and this offends me, and that offends me, and this person did this 18 years ago. We're going to cancel them. There's no major look at the excessive violence in media. And this is not a new art. We were talking about this when I was at the Annenberg School in 1963, 64.
Well, I don't think it happened overnight, Bill. I think it's been coming, and there's a philosophical ideology that grabbed hold. That I'm from the Midwest. I can't even identify it. I mean, the names, the cancer culture, the teaching of hating whites or hating black. I don't get any of it. It's very difficult to wrap your head around. So I watch the Hallmark Channel. I watch the old Johnny Carson show. I think people are really dying for that kind of thing, and yet they're afraid to say so, which is too bad. Luckily, you and I have a microphone, so I say what I want to say. But kindness is rare, and that's a shame.
Well, the reasons we have so much anger in our society are really complex. One reason is the shrinking and the disappearance of the middle class, and so that there are the people who are the working poor, who are the disadvantaged people. But
there's a divisiveness that on purpose. There's even in the classrooms dividing us. I mean, there is more bigotry today, and I'm a baby boomer, grew up in the '60s. There's more bigotry today than, surprisingly, than back in the '60s when we had some marches and some things, but nothing like this. Nothing.
Well, there's more tribalism today. Political tribal politics has become more like a religion was back 40 years ago. Oh, that's a Jewish person. I don't like them. Oh, that's a Catholic person. I don't like them. Now I hear people saying, that's a Democrat. I don't want to be with them. That's a Republican. I don't want to be. That's like a religious fanaticism.
Well, and I also think the media, not all, but the media is starting to, they editorialize on the front page of the paper and call it news. And I grew up in the media somewhat, and usually editorials were kept for the editorial page, but the news is so slanted from so many sides. People are dizzy. They don't know what to believe. Panic is on the front page every day. It's a wonder people get up in the morning. So people like you that lift spirits, that have a humor. I mean, you can't even tell. Remember Johnny Carson? He could tell a political joke regardless of which side of the aisle, and your sides would hurt. It'd be so funny.
Well, you're leading me in a very natural way, whether you realize it or not. You're leading me into being able to talk about my work and seemingly plug my book as a direct result of the conversation.
Right.
I wrote a book, and it came out in the middle of the pandemic, and it's called The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog. And as you may notice, right there on its little cover, it says politically incorrect humor. Now, what I mean by that is,
Yay.
and that's not meant as a political Republican Democrat statement. It's meant as this: if you're offended by stuff, it's right there on the cover, my friend. Politically, so what I'm doing here, and this is sort of in the spirit of Bill Maher, right? I've written a book that I admit has cultural appropriation in it. I admit that there's sex jokes. I admit that there's stuff like that. And I just want to make you laugh. So I've gone back maybe a generation in terms of the value system that I used in writing The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog. And we have gotten, when I say we, the book, the dog, and I have gotten very good reviews. That Spike, that it's narrated by the central character is a dog who becomes a big TV star, right? So we got the dog jumping through it. His master is a guy like me who is a talk show host. Together, they go from a little market in North Carolina, like I did, up to New York to big success. And it's about the price of fame and the things that the dog observes. The dog is like an observational comedian in the form of Jerry Seinfeld, and he narrates a book. And one of the reviewers, Winston Groom, who wrote Forrest Gump, also reviewed books. And this is the last book he reviewed. And he said, Spike the Wonder Dog is the funniest canine in the history of fiction. So there are other books narrated by dogs. They're called The Wild, The Art of Racing in the Rain. This book is in that genre, but it's a satirical book. And if you want to have a laugh this summer for your summer reading, order Spike.com.
Well, give me a little journey with Spike. I mean, take me on a little bit of a journey with Spike. Other than we know it's humorous, but kind of like, give me a story, a little bit of a story. Give our audience a peek into the book, a little more.
Okay. Well,
since you like stand-up, here you go.
Early on, well, it's difficult to capture whole scenarios, whole chapters. But I'll just give you some punch things, see if it makes sense. Early in the book, when the Spike the Wonder Dog is on the Jimmy Fallon show because of something he does at the Greensboro Coliseum, inadvertently rips off Donald Duck's head doing a promotional thing for Disney World on Ice, and it goes viral. They're on the Jimmy Fallon show, and in the green room, they meet a boxer whose name is Ike, quote, I got money, Piles. I got money, Piles. And later in the book, he immediately tries to buy Spike from Bud, his talk host owner, and Bud won't sell Spike even for $10,000. He will not sell the dog. And that character is sort of based on Money Mayweather, it's loosely based on him, like a guy who's trying to buy everything, throwing money around. Later in the book, I Got Money Piles has a big championship fight at the MGM Green Garden Arena. Now, I used to work for Showtime covering boxing, so I have a lot of experience in Vegas. I also covered a lot of the Vegas restaurant scene. I've been to Vegas many, many times.
Have you played Vegas?
Excuse me?
Have you played Vegas? Did you do a...
No, I've never, none of my shows have ever played Vegas, but I've played in Vegas, that's for sure. Anyway, so I Got Money Piles. To make money, he's got the Max X laxative drone, which is a specialized drone that flies in heavy-duty laxatives to constipated opioid users in the Midwest. The motto is, when we drop, you plop. Okay. So Spike is in, that means we were asking for the book, right?
Right.
Spike's job is to be in the drone, right, which is part of the ring entrance, and then land in the ring. So that is one thing that takes them to Vegas. While they're out in Vegas, they go to a new attraction, which is the attraction of dead celebrities, holograms. When this will happen someday, we can actually talk to the celebrity and interchange with them. And at the time I wrote the book, they had to hire an MC to MC the opening night, and so they hired Larry King because he was alive, but he looked the most dead of the available MCs. But believe me,
God,
there's a lot of stuff in the book. The Vegas chapter is hot, really hot.
It's funny. That's funny. So it's doing well, and it got great reviews, right?
We're holding 5 stars on Amazon for more than a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
And Bill,
I know.
you have 2 more books. What were the other 2 about?
Well, the first book, written in 1980, was called At First Sight, a romantic love story, also in the first person, narrated by the man who falls in love with a woman. And it's the story of a long-distance romance and the price that distance takes. There's a wonderful song recorded by Frank Sinatra. It has one of the lines, but somehow I know that distance and time will finally tear us apart. The further the wait, the longer the climb, the deeper the pain in my heart. So it's about the long distance relationship, but it's set in show business, and the central character is like me, a guy with a talk show host. The second book was HarperCollins, and that was Got What It Takes. Successful People Reveal How They Made It to the Top. I interviewed 44 highly successful people, ranging from Diane von Furstenberg to Bill Bratton, the police commissioner, to just a lot of different.
Give me a couple people that impressed you the most, and why, that you interviewed.
Is that whom I interviewed?
Yeah, that you interviewed. Who hit, who impressed you the most, not because of their fame, but because of their character, or because of their essence.
I'm dealing with Richard Branson, I'm dealing with Jeff Zucker, I'm dealing with highly successful senators and stuff like that. I can't really, and great writers, I can't really say who impressed me the most, but
Who inspired you by their story?
who inspired?
Who inspired you by their story?
Well, I think the story of Richard Branson is quite inspiring. He, his parents had big goals for their highly intelligent, enterprising son, but he dropped out of school because he didn't like school and went to work in a record shop. Just working at a record shop at Piccadilly Square, and then like 5 years later, you had Virgin Music. I mean, the guy was and Branson himself has extremely swashbuckling aura about him while being completely authentic. He's not one of those people who walks around like somebody's carrying a full-length mirror in front of him, But
Right.
he has natural charisma. So I think that Branson is right up there. Branson's story really inspires me. He just keeps going and going and going, and his values. He gives away a lot of money to charity. So the hour I spent interviewing Sir Richard Branson for It Got What It Takes, the book is used in some classrooms, by the way. It's really a motivational book for people who want to either reframe their life, set a goal for themselves, and accomplish it. For someone starting out in life, it's a lesson. Got What It Takes is a book that essentially, where I have been able to use interviewing skills to take out of successful people behavior patterns that help them to become successful.
I love this subject, and I have guests that they're not maybe writers like you are, but I always want to know what makes them get up in the morning and say, wow, isn't life good, and what can I do today? And I love books like what you're talking about. So in addition to Richard Branson, can you take us inside a few more people, because you've had such a great life, and we're able to talk with some pretty, not only accomplished, but good people.
Well, one of the things that I've observed, say, let's talk about Frank Sinatra, whom one of the great singers and talents of the past century. I
Still
had the
is.
Yeah, no, but he's dead, but his music is still informing all of us, very much a part of our lives, multi generations.
Hmm.
Sinatra, I got to know him a little bit. Oh wait, excuse me. Believe me, I'm not going to answer the phone here.
Oh, I think the audience would enjoy your conversation on the phone.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I forgot to put my phone on airplane mode, but
Oh,
we got it right now.
I've
So
got
I
mine.
think that with Frank, seeing your talent at a young age, knowing by the time he was an early teenager that he had this gift of this sound, this voice. He had been singing since a child. He stood on his parents' piano as like a 6, 7-year-old, would sing songs and people would throw pennies. Seeing that he had talent and having the ambition and the intelligence to make that talent into a successful reality, right? I think it's a pity when someone has a gift, but they don't know how to use the gift to um, for the greater good of society. I mean, if you look at what Frank did, he certainly entertained a lot of people. And just casually, once he said, you're very powerful, provided you know how powerful you are. Well, I took that to heart. And oh, geez,
What did he show you a side of him that we might not we might be surprised? But well, I've heard, I've had the pleasure of
no
meeting him a
surprise.
couple times. There's more to him than what the Hollywood stories. I think there was a lot more heart to him than what was ever expressed.
That's obvious. That's obvious. I mean, any people, whether it's Frank Sinatra or Renee Zellweger, who was my neighbor and I got to know her, whether it's Yul Brynner, whether it's P. Diddy, there's a public persona and then there's a private persona to them. And that's just life. That's the way it is. Um, you go on and on about the things I saw in Sinatra, which are extreme, wonderful manners. And
Hmm.
he said to me, I met him at 4 o'clock in the morning in Las Vegas, and I had been a fan. And that night, we clicked. And Frank said to me, after about talking 10, 12 minutes, they tell me you have a show on Channel 5 in New York. Yeah. He said, well, look, I don't want to promise anything, but I'm going to be in New York in September with Ella and Basie. And this is
Wow.
Easter, so it's like April. Frank says to me, maybe I'll come and do your show. And he did. I never even asked him.
Oh wow.
How did you get Frank Sinatra? I don't understand it. And the answer is we connected. And during the interview, he says, I take people as I find them. I saw that you were a good man, and here I am.
But that
So
came
that's,
across if you ever got to see him live, which I did 2 or 3 times, and there's an energy that Sinatra had that
very,
you can't bottle it, you can't buy it. It's just, it's amazing.
it's very interesting. I saw Frank 80 some times over the course of 44 years, and he projected energy. He
Hmm.
projected
Hmm.
energy out of the room. Whereas if you took somebody like Dean Martin, whose birthday was just observed, and Will Freewald and I and Dina Martin, his daughter, were doing a show for the American Popular uh, Song Society tomorrow.
With Dick Robinson?
No, Will Freewald, uh, Dean Martin's son, and I are doing a show. No, it's not Dick Robinson Society. This is the American Popular Song Society, APSS. So Dean Martin, he didn't project it to the audience. He drew you to him
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and hit all this stuff. But one
But
of the things,
both styles worked, and it was authentic, which is what made it
yes,
more enticing. There was no fake,
that's right,
or at least I didn't feel there was.
exactly.
Do you have a philosophy of life other than fun?
Oh, I have many aphorisms. The Bill Boggs aphorism list. One of which is, I am grateful. I'm a grateful man. I believe that gratitude manifests gratitude. There's not a day of my life goes by, honestly, Anita, not a day goes by when I don't say to somebody, I've been blessed, I'm really lucky, I know it, I live it. So I'm an extremely grateful person. I preach confidence and belief in yourself. I think that's really important. And just essentially treating others the way you want to be treated. But I have a lot of affirmations I say to myself every day. I'm happy. I'm in the moment, in the moment. I'll give you some. I'm happy.
Well, hang on to that thought, because we're going to make a little money here and do a commercial. But I want you to be. I want to come right back and pick up where you left off, because this is a subject that I really think is a spirit lifter, and we need a lot of those. So everybody, stay close. We'll be right back with Bill Boggs.
Enjoy stirring it up.
Ever dream of hosting your own radio show? Well, now you can. Contact the True Oldies channel today to get you started hosting your own radio show. Call 561-627-9966. That's 561-627-9966. Or visit TrueOldiesFLA.com.
And we are back with Bill Boggs, and his resume is his talking. My going through his resume would not do it justice. And we were talking about actually life and his philosophy. A wonderful comedian, a writer, an interviewer, a stage presence second to none. Talked with the greats of my lifetime, certainly, and my listening audience, I'm sure. So, Bill, welcome back. And I was asking you about some philosophies that you held that kept you going where you are and giving back and doing all the things you've done. You've interviewed a lot of people whose philosophies you've learned about, but I'd like to know about yours.
Well, first off, let me say, Anita, you have a wonderful way. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. I'm as good as my guest, Bill.
No, but some of you listen. One of the things I wrote about in that book, Up It Takes, is Robert Iger, former president of Disney, said,
right.
Everyone should take this down. Listen with the intention of understanding, not immediately responding. How many times is somebody in your life telling you something the whole time, you're just waiting for them to finish, not even processing what they're talking about, nor they tell them what you think.
Right.
So back in about 1987, I started, I was working with Dick Clark on trying to develop a game show on the West Coast.
You were working with whom?
Dick Clark.
Oh, wow. I had the pleasure of meeting him. What a neat guy. Of course, I grew up with him on Bandstand as well, but what a cool guy.
I knew him from Philadelphia originally, even before I got into business. He was very, very supportive of me. Anyway, during that period of time, I was kind of unhappy. Things weren't coming together. I decided to do an aphorism, starting out just by saying in the morning, it's a choice. Your attitude is a choice. So close my eyes, think about I'm happy. Right? Give yourself the suggestion you're happy. And over the years, this has expanded into several aphorisms. I'll run some of them by you because this is a way, essentially, I try to use this to influence my behavior. I'm happy. I'm in the moment and connected in the moment. How difficult is it to be here now, as Ram Dass says? I only do things I approve of today. I got that from Shirley MacLaine in an interview. I write every day. I read every day. I'll be the best person I can be today. I make healthy choices. I have an attitude of gratitude. I will enjoy today. I will practice being positive. Here's a big one. Peace and contentment is my goal. But as Joe Torre said to me when I was interviewing him for the book, application is the key, meaning you can want to do something, but unless you apply your behavior to doing it, it's not going to happen. And they go on and on and on.